Women's Rights, PSA by Leandra Futsing. Gender-based discrimination goes back around 2,500 years, around the Bronze Age. At first, gender discrimination wasn't a problem since everyone had to rely on everyone to survive. But when technological advancements were made, like bronze tools and weapons, relying on one another wasn't mandatory. That's when problems started to come up. In China, for example, bodies found from the Neolithic period 12,000 years ago show no sign of inequality in diet or objects the bodies were buried with. But in the Bronze Age, males were buried with more riches while female skeletons became significantly shorter, likely because of childhood malnourishment. If the family or community was short on food, girls were the first to be deprived of food. Today, gender equality is still a problem all over the world, and it's not a problem as small as how much money people are buried with. Uneven access to education between girls and boys, where girls draw the short stick. Discrimination in the workplace, women are unfairly treated and underpaid. Unjust laws that keep women from being able to make decisions about their own bodies, and law enforcement that abuses their power. To this day, people have been advocating and protesting for women's rights, but only the bare minimum has been done to move forward. Start literacy. Being literate is important for many things like shopping and reading, and it can help with many things like enunciating. It doesn't matter what you're saying if no one can understand you. You need to be literate to fill out a job application, to read books, to read directions, and you need to be literate to learn new things. Literacy is something many people take for granted, and yet many women can't even get a chance to learn how to read. 75% of the world's 876 million illiterate adults are women, and nearly 500 million of them are aged 15 or over. Since so many women in the world are illiterate, this of course makes it harder to get a job, let alone a good paying one. The literacy rates are so high because of the lack of education, which is also a serious problem. School doesn't only teach reading and writing, it teaches math and science and other things that are necessary to work in any job with a decent pay. Just having a high school diploma can get you many well-paying jobs, like police officer, pharmacy technician, hotel manager, or real estate agent. But many girls can't get this chance. 2/3 of all children denied school are girls. There are countries that have some level of gender equality for education, at least in attendance, but it isn't the overwhelming majority. 66% of countries have achieved gender parity in elementary school or primary education, but in secondary education, the number goes down to 45% in middle school and further to 25% of countries in high school. After a poor education, of course jobs are affected, but even well-educated women have a hard time in today's work environment with all the sexism going on in the workplace. There are many gendered biases in place before someone even goes into an interview. For example, even though it's illegal to ask a woman if they have kids or plan to in a job interview, that doesn't stop people from assuming. People in charge of hiring can tend to assume that a woman won't be able to get a job done because of childcare, but men don't face that bias even though they have families and parental responsibilities as well. There's also a double standard in the workplace. A man is called assertive while a woman is called bossy. A man is called passionate while a woman is called emotional. This bias, whether conscious or not, puts a negative twist on anything a woman does in a workplace. There are many other things that are linked to put women down. For example, favoring men for promotions or for a certain job because it's more masculine, even though there are more qualified women available. Today, 2.7 billion women don't have the same work opportunities as men. Even though women make up 75% of the world's workforce, they earn only 10% of the world's income. This means that many women are underpaid for the work they do. Unpaid care and domestic work are feminized worldwide, which makes it difficult to earn income and save money for later in life. This backs up another fact, that women aged 25 to 34 globally are 25% more likely than men to live in extreme poverty. Extreme poverty, for context, is defined as living on less than $1.90 in US dollars per day. Lots of these problems are caused by the gender pay gap, which offers less pay for feminine jobs like daycare and home health aides for seniors, and more pay for masculine jobs like construction and building. Even though pay discrimination based on gender has been illegal since 1963, it is still widespread, with many employers consciously making the decision to pay women less than their male counterparts. Another problem, not just with jobs but in general, is the discriminatory law system. In many countries, there are laws against women that take away many of their decision-making rights. In one country, if a man marries a woman after kidnapping her, he is exempt from any and all prosecution and punishment for said kidnapping. In another country, if a man kills his wife after discovering she was cheating, he gets a lesser sentence. And in yet another country, a woman's testimony is worth half a man's, meaning that in a legal case, if 2 men are testifying, 4 women must testify against them, though their testimony still counts as 2 people's worth. 2.5 billion women and girls live in countries with at least one discriminatory law in the books, but that's not all. There are also cases where simply the fear of being treated unfairly by the legal system, which is well-founded, has kept sexual harassment and incidents from coming to light. In 2015, Daniel Holtzclaw, a former Oklahoma City police officer, was convicted of 18 sexual assault charges, including rape, because he used the authority of his badge to target African American women. Even though he was convicted in 2015, the incidents had started 2 years ago back in 2013, and he was only found guilty of 18 out of the 36 charges. "I didn't think anyone believed me. I'm a black female," said one of the accusers in court. Cases like that are common. This one is unique in the fact that the police officer actually faced consequences. Cases like that are actually common. This one is, 41% of police being accused or charged with sexual violence. In 41% of cases of police being accused or charged with sexual violence, they had previously been charged, ranging from 2 to 21 previous times. Even then, they were allowed to stay in the force. When they are terminated or asked to resign, they move on to another police department. Another incident, but this time the woman who actually called out for help was completely ignored. In 2015, 2 Boston police officers violated protocol in failing to confirm and enforce a domestic violence victim's restraining order against her ex-boyfriend. Said ex-boyfriend murdered her the next day. 1 in 4 who had previously contacted police said they would not seek their assistance again for domestic violence. There's general mistrust of the justice system when it comes to cases involving discrimination of any kind, and that mistrust is well deserved. We need to make it so that anybody can report that they are being hurt without being afraid that the person on the other side of the phone is going to make it worse, or flat out ignore them. Treating women unfairly or violently shouldn't be brushed off as a nuisance. Lots of problems have been named, but there has to be a way to fix them. Potential solutions to stop sexism or gender discrimination include repealing discriminatory laws that directly negatively affect women, such as laws that allow men to get away with rape as long as they marry the victim after the crime. Removing laws like that would be a massive step in the right direction and bring down the number of women being mistreated. Laws that positively affect women, such as laws to help with childcare and paid maternity leave, should also be added to make it easier for women to make their way in the world. But to deal with all these laws, we need to first have people in charge who are not sexist. It is hard to change the opinions of people who are sexist and or raised to be like that, and for some people it's nearly impossible to knock them off the high horse that is the idea of white male supremacy. But for younger people, it's different. Reading books on equality to younger children and later using classes or lessons on gender equality will help educate children and get rid of gender discrimination and inequality in the next generation. One issue with this approach is that older sexist people with firmly rooted beliefs will not be affected at all by this. Assuming they've been raised in a household that encourages gender discrimination, or have just grown up believing such things, changing their opinions will be incredibly difficult, if not impossible. As for countries with no opportunities for females at all, unfortunately, the approach that was said earlier only works in places where there is a government in place that even considers gender equality. In other parts of the world, this kind of solution is most likely impossible. To get rid of gender discrimination, you need a way to change the minds of most people in charge of the country, and then give girls and women access to education so they aren't behind when the time comes that everyone can have an equal chance of having a life with no biases in place. If this all happens, people will eventually have an even chance at having a good life regardless of gender. This problem relates to universal love because the concept of it is loving and treating everyone equally, regardless of gender identity, race, or sexuality. If women are seen, treated, and believed to be inferior, then there is no possibility for universal love.